Jesus' words to his first disciples were, "Follow me." You know, as kids, we had this game called Follow the Leader. We always liked being the leader because then everybody did what you did. No, it's not quite like Simon Says. You're walking a line, and if you raise your hand, then the person behind you has to raise their hand. And if you crawl down on your knees, then they all have to crawl down on their knees. And every kid who was at the front of the line enjoyed being the leader because they got to control everybody else. I think that's why we didn't introduce this game in our house, because it would have caused conflict unending, probably. And there are certain people who shall remain unnamed who would have always wanted to be the leader because they liked controlling and influencing their siblings. But Jesus would go to his disciples. A little help, Ariel. There we go. And he would say, "Follow me." Not in playing this great game of follow the leader, but he was calling them. So one of them was by the name of Philip. It says, the next day Jesus decided to go to Galilee. And he found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." And then another time, as he passed by, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and followed him. And then perhaps the more famous version of this is when he was walking along the Sea of Galilee. He saw Simon and Andrew, the brother of Simon, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. I always thought it'd be really odd to just wander off with some random adult. This almost sounds like an abduction going on here. But Jesus and Andrew and Peter actually knew each other, as they had been interacting with Jesus for about 6 months at this point. We see them get introduced to Jesus in the book of John. They actually go to Jerusalem with him, and he throws the money changers out. Several teachings. They were there at the wedding feast in Cana, saw him turn water into wine. They knew who Jesus was. They had been interacting with him. They had seen a few miracles. So when Jesus walked up alongside of them on the Sea of Galilee, he was not a shady character in a white van candy bar. I know. Yep, not a shady figure in a white van with a candy bar. He was known as the Messiah, the Son of God, the one that we're waiting for, the one that we've been looking for. And his invitation was very readily accepted. They jumped at the opportunity to follow Jesus. What I want to look at this morning is, what does it mean to follow Jesus? And this wasn't actually new to the Jews. This was a term that actually comes through the entire Old Testament. In fact, we even saw it in the flannel story here this morning. Caleb was one who was known as one who followed God. In Numbers 14:24, we go back in time 45 years from the flannel story this morning. And God said, "But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land into which he went, and his descendants shall possess it." Let me give you the backstory here. God had led the Israelites out of Egypt supernaturally. He smites all the Egyptian gods in the power of Pharaoh with the 10 plagues of Egypt. And he draws the entire army of the Egyptians out into the wilderness to the Red Sea. It looks awful because they're surrounded. Mountains on 2 sides, the Red Sea on the 3rd side, and the Egyptian army on the 4th side. But God delivers his people Israel by coming between them and the Egyptian army, and then opening a path through the Red Sea, an escape route. But then God's not content just letting the good guys escape. He wants to defeat the bad guys too. And so he draws the Egyptians into the Red Sea, and then lets the waves come back, and he covers them up. Let's just say that Pharaoh didn't make it into the annals of the Egyptian records because they wanted to forget that defeat. They don't remember pharaohs that lose their army in the bottom of the ocean. It's the first time an army has been defeated by waves. Wasn't the last. Yes, I know, Mikhail, it wasn't the last. But then God proceeded to feed his people supernaturally with manna. He drew water out of rocks. Have you ever done that before? No, it doesn't come easily. No. Water in rocks doesn't go well. Not easy. God did it. So then, this same God wants to bring his people Israel into the land of Canaan. They send 12 spies to spy out the land. They have had win after win after win after win, and the spies go into the land and they're like, we can't do it. Obviously, God's power is not good enough. That was the consensus opinion. Caleb and Joshua were outliers. The two of them said, we can surely do it. God will deliver them into our hands. But the other 10 spies said, we can't do it. They're too big for us. They're